Hi, Myrtle. You're the first one in here. I'm just waiting. We're going to get ready in a second. Hello, Hunter. Good to see you. Skull Meat. Hello. Okay, we're getting some people in here. Let me put the chat into the screen. Can you hear me okay? Good. Microphone's kind of far away. This is not my usual streaming situation. I am doing this from my main desk. About 30 minutes. They're going to give us the first problem. Eric, I'm going to say Eric, not they. Eric will give us the first problem in the Advent of Code. It's a yearly tradition. Yeah, you should be able to hear the keyboard. There's going to be clickety clacketing going on, considerable clickety clacketing. I should show you what we're going to do here, because I am going to be using Common Lisp and Emacs for this. Let's see if I can switch over. There you go. So this is going to be a little bit different for people who are not used to Emacs and Common Lisp, but it'll be kind of fun. I'll try to explain what I'm doing as I'm going. I should explain at first that I am not a professional coder. I do this for fun as a hobby. I enjoy this, and every year the Advent of Code has been a lot of fun. We have about in Twit, the Club Twit, we have about I think last year it was 27 people who solved at least one problem. Actually, I'll show you the leaderboard from last year so you can see. I think I am the only one who is doing it in Lisp in the club, but there are maybe a dozen people who do it in Lisp. Oh, Alistair, I see you're going to be playing along. This is for 2024. Let me go back to last year. It's good. I see all those people are signed up. This was last year. Darren, Paul, John, Eric got all 25 problems, 50 stars. There's 2 problems a day for 25 days. I got stalled out. I don't usually do it in real time. I got stalled out around July on problem 22. But you can see there are quite a few people who solved at least one. 28 people who solved at least one. So that's our private leaderboard for last year. Let's go back to this year, though. That's interesting that people are already on the leaderboard. That's good. Change that to 24. So all you guys planning to participate. That's wonderful. I'm pleased to see that. In about 28 minutes and 30 seconds, as you can see from the clock, we will get to play. Thank you, Trump Taba. Thank you. We appreciate it. Yes, Common Lisp is the language. Let me show you real quickly. We got a little time. A little bit about what's my setup is going to be. So let me switch back over to Emacs. I like Common Lisp because it's as old as I am, which is always a good thing. I made it text pretty big so you can, I think, see what's going on here. I do a template every year. Actually, I guess I've never opened it on this machine. I do a template every year, which I then, what's going on? I guess, let's see, 2.4, yeah. And then, nope, I have to go up one. I do a template. Here's the template. Oh, let's start all over again. I just minimized that. It's going to take me a little while to get used to doing this and restream at the same time. But this is the template I set up. And the only thing that changes is day to day. I do some standard things. Let's go back to my first day. So I do some standard things. I load in a few utilities. That's what these are. 5 a.m. iterate. 5 a.m. is a test bed. Iterate is, instead of, Lisp has a weird looping thing. This is more like the for iterator that you're used to in most other languages. This is regular expressions. This is pattern matching, and this is just a bunch of utilities. This is string utilities. So I load all of those. In fact, let me compile them real quick. Actually, where is my Windows setup? Let's do this and X3 to split it. And then one of the things about Lisp and Emacs is I have the Lisp REPL running here. So as I'll do this again, I'll clear the REPL. When I Control CC this, it loads in these things. This is to use that package instead of the standard loop. These are shortcuts, that's all. So instead of typing out CC, CL, PC, RE, you can just type RE or SR for those. Lisp works I'm in an image for Lisp. So as you can see over here on the right, I'm in day one. I'm in the package day one, and all of these are compiled into the package day one. This standard statement just says, run the test when I compile it or define it. That way I can do inline testing. In fact, this whole thing is set up so that in one file, everything for that day is here. And then you can see I don't have any information in this yet, and I will have at some point solve the puzzle. I'll put the timies in here. So this is just a blank template ready to go. The first thing I'm going to do, of course, is read the problem, put what I think is important in here, and then download this data file, input.txt. Each day has its own input, and each user has their own input. That's kind of one of the cool things about Advent of Code. You can't look over the shoulder of the person next to you. I don't know how many different data samples there are, but they're quite a variety. What'll happen, let me go back to the AOC page. What'll happen here, I'm not seeing, are you seeing the AOC page now? Let me look real quickly and see what's going on. You should be seeing it. I think this is a bug in Restream that I'm not seeing what I'm seeing. Yeah, Scheme this is very much like Scheme. In fact, I started programming at BASIC. I did a lot of Perl, Python, C. My first programs were assembly language and C. But in the last 10 years, I've stuck with Common Lisp because it doesn't change. What really burned me with Python was this shift from Python 2 to 3. I knew Python 2 very well, and then all of a sudden, they dramatically changed the language. They did the same thing with Perl. And the nice thing about Lisp is it's been defined for about 40 years, and it's never going to change. It has some weird edges, but it's never going to change. Can you see, let me see the screen sharing. Let me stop screen sharing real quickly and then start again and see, because can you see the Advent of Code screen? Yeah, you can see it now. All right, so once we get the puzzle, I'll click that link that you see there, and I will get this word puzzle that will then solve. If I go back to previous years, maybe that's the best way to do this. I'll go back to last year's Advent of Code. And you can kind of see. So as it fills in, you get a drawing. Let's go to day one. That's what we're going to do. So day one, he will set the scene first. And in this, he's actually, the first few paragraphs are explaining how the whole thing works. There are 25 problems, each with 2 parts. Each part gives you a star. So there's a total of 50 stars available, one star for each part of the puzzle. Then he's going to describe the puzzle. He gives you a sample. This is really important for me because I like to write tests. So he's going to give you sample data and what the answer should be for that sample data. Oh, yeah, here it is. So I always, first thing I do, I kind of scan the problem set, but that I immediately make some, put the sample data in my code and a test to give me that answer. That's how I'll know if I've got proper code, is if it gives me the right answer for the example. Once you've got it all, you then put your answer in, and you see I solved this last year. So in the new one, there'll be a blank saying, what's the answer? If you get this answer right, you get the star. He doesn't want to see your work. You don't need to show your work with this or anything like that. So all you have to do is come up with the right answer. But that's what's kind of cool about it, is that everybody, or I don't know, there may be 100, 1,000, 20 different data sets. So there are many different answers. He associates the data set with your account. You have to log into this. So he knows what the right answer is for the data set you got. When you get the right answer, you get the star. So let's go back. Let me go back to I don't want to miss the start of this. It's really fun because everybody's doing it, right? Everybody's starting at the same time, which is midnight Eastern. Oh, I went back to the leaderboard. Fortunately for those of us in the East Coast, and West Coast rather, it's 20 minutes from now. It's 9 p.m. For Galia and Israel, it's a little early in the morning. For people in Hawaii, it's earlier in the evening. If you're on the East Coast, boy, I think that's asking a lot to say start coding at midnight. The private leaderboard, Sean Bow, has a code. If you're in the club, go into our Discord, and I'm going to open the Discord chat. And there's an AOC, an advent of code 2023. And I think if you just search for advent of code and leaderboard, you'll probably find John Arnold's post where he gives I'll have to search for it to actually give you you know what? I'm going to give it to you if I can find it. Let's see, leaderboard. How many times are people going to say leaderboard? Let's go back to the oldest leaderboard. Yes, here it is. So where can I put this? Can I put it in chat? Or should I just read you the leaderboard number? Where's the post? Okay, here it is. The invite code. Oh man, I'm going to put it in chat because I want everybody to join our leaderboard. Now, how do I put it in chat? That's the next question. Normally I have Anthony or somebody helping me out with this. I'm doing this all on my own, so I don't know how this works. Chat, type the message. Okay. Our private AOC leaderboard invite code is that. There you go. So please join in. And if you're going to do it anyway, it'll be fun. So we have 18 minutes. I am ready. I got my Emacs templates all set up this morning, and got everything, checked my Emacs to make sure it was still working and all connected. I'm a little rusty. I actually did a couple of day ones earlier today just to remind me how to write code and how my whole thing is set up. So I'm probably still a little rusty. The reason I've never done this before is I'm also really slow. Some of these take me weeks, literally weeks, as we get to the higher numbers. The idea of this is the problems become progressively more difficult. So day one usually is very easy. It's a simple warm-up. There are people, the leaders on the real leaderboard, who will solve it in seconds. It will have, and the way it works, the first 100 people on the leaderboard that get points. Everybody gets points, I guess, but get the most points, and that's leaderboard is locked. And then people start posting solutions. I will show you the language I'm using. I am using Common Lisp, which is, I think, to some an obscure language. To a lot of people, I think Common Lisp is kind of the king of languages. It was settled, became Common Lisp. There are many Lisp dialogues. It became Common Lisp, I think, in 87, 89, something like that. That's when the final language definition was settled, and it's stayed the same ever since. One reason I like it. There are a lot of good free open source Common Lisp implementations. I use Steelbank Common Lisp, which is probably the fastest, or one of the fastest anyway. SBCL works Mac, Windows, Linux. I use Emacs because Emacs is very nicely designed to work with Common Lisp. You see here on the right, I have my REPL. You can actually enter Lisp code, and it will give you the answer. Actually, maybe more useful. Once I have an example, I will show you how I can see the example, and you'll actually see as I'm doing this tonight how I use the REPL to kind of work on the code. I am not a professional coder. I am not a Common Lisp expert. I am a newbie, a novice, and I do not recommend, read, evaluate, print loop. That's exactly right, Sean. I do not recommend you follow my style or my code. I just do what I do. And I'm actually a little nervous about sharing my my this experience with you, because I'm not a pro at this, and I don't want to pretend that I'm an exemplar and you should follow what I do or anything like that. We're just doing this for fun, right? We're just doing this for fun. Myrtle, you don't have to know what you're looking at. It's gobbledygook, basically. But maybe you'll get something out of it. We'll see. We'll see. I didn't. What we're thinking of doing later at the end of this week, I think we're going to do it on Friday night, is a post-mortem with a couple of the top coders, Paul Holder, Darren Oakey in the club, maybe Galia, whoever can make it, and explain how we approached this problem one from day one. But that will be a postmortem. That'll be, by then we'll already be to day 6. You don't want to see. I'm not gonna stream all of it. It gets really boring really fast. The only reason I'm even thinking I can stream day 1 is because usually day 1's pretty easy. And just to reassure myself of that, I solved a few day 1s earlier. Usually takes me about, depending on how rusty I am, how hard the problem is, it takes me about usually half an hour to an hour to do day 1, part 1 anyway. Maybe an hour to do the whole thing. I'm not promising that, because I'm also running this stream, which is going to make it a little bit more complicated. I will show you one of my secret weapons that I started using last year, and actually, it's really a great secret weapon, and that is my ChatGPT Common Lisp GPT. I trained it with all of the Common Lisp books, and the good thing about an old language is most of them are in public domain. I have some of the best programming books ever written in here, all with Common Lisp, including people like Peter Norvig's Principles of AI Programming. So I can ask it things. How do I do a for loop in... Oh, I don't even have to say in Common Lisp, because it is also been told only give me answers from the 20 books that I've uploaded. So let's see how busy it is. It's a little slow right now, which is okay. So there you go. So it gives me some code, some sample code. Do times, do Lisp using loop. I use iterate, and so there you go. There's iterate. This is what I use. I gave it the iterate documentation. So let me make that bigger so that you can see it better. Yeah, that's better, isn't it? I like to make the text really big so it's easy to read without squinting. Oh, good, Varg. Welcome. Well, come along and do this with us. It'll be fun. It'll be challenging. 12 minutes and 14 seconds. I'll go back to the AOC page because we're counting down now. This is when it gets really exciting, when people start to drink coffee and get excited. The guy who does this, Eric Wastel, is a freaking genius. There are a lot of coding challenges out there. You might have tried some, like Project Euler, I should say. There was we were just doing Everybody Codes earlier on as a challenge. There are dozens of these coding challenges out there, and there are actually real competitions where people are really good. This one is, I think, the best design. It's beautifully done. It's once a year, 25 days of December and Christmas Advent calendar. It always has a fun problem set, but also really, I think Eric really is smart and really has done this beautifully. And it really tests your knowledge of algorithms. He says you don't need a super coding knowledge or experience to do this. It uses some fundamental algorithms over and over again, like pathfinding and stuff. And it's a good way to learn those. So what'll happen is the competitive coders, and there are such a thing, will jump on this and they will have solved this before I even read the first sentence. I mean, I'm not kidding, in 10 seconds. And there are places on YouTube you can go and watch these guys do it. And the problem is, I don't think it's very educational. I've tried to watch it because they're using all sorts of tricks. They're writing terrible code. I try to write code I'd be proud of. And that takes me a long time. It's, in fact, as I said, sometimes weeks to do these as we get farther along. The first few are usually pretty easy. Last year, I'm a little nervous because last year Eric threw us a curve. And the problem, yes, it's a pith helmet. I will be changing hats periodically during the stream to amuse myself. Mostly.
What are you wearing now?
Oh, my wife Lisa's in here. She sometimes joins me on this. Usually falls asleep before we get too far.
Oh, stop.
I'm wearing my beautiful steampunk leather top hat with the buffalo nickels.
Oh,
Yeah, I love it.
I
Yeah.
love that one.
No, I've never worked as a programmer. I've always coded as a hobby for fun. I really enjoy it. For me, it's like crossword puzzles or Sudoku. It's just something I do that kind of try to keep my brain limber. I have to say, in the last couple of years, it's gotten harder and harder. My memory is not as good as it used to be. So, Myrtle says hi.
Oh, Myrtle, I said hi. I'm enjoying listening.
9 minutes to go till the launch. I was starting to say, in theory, it gets gradually more difficult, and the hardest one, usually Christmas Day is not the hardest one. I think he gives you a break. The hardest one is usually Christmas Eve, the 24th. But last year, he did some weird things. And for instance, I thought problem 5 was one of the harder problems, at least of the first 20, and took us a long way to solve. So I'm a little nervous that one might not be that easy, but I think he really intends for one to be fairly easy. He doesn't do a lot of interviews. His name is Eric Wastel, Wastl. He is a coder. He works for somebody told me his new job is for a gaming company. I think he's on Wikipedia. You could look him up. But he is really a genius of designing these, and he's been doing this now this is, I think, year 9 of the advent of code. So he's been doing this for quite a while and has gotten quite proficient at it. I will be donating. I always try to donate every year, and people who donate get a special, there you go. Here's some information. He says you don't need a computer science background to participate, which is probably true. I don't have a computer science background, but and this is really important. Every problem has a solution that completes at most 15 seconds on 10-year-old hardware. Very often, you'll solve it, and it will take hours, days, forever to solve. And that is a sign that you've done it in a less efficient. Usually there's a naive solution to all of these that aren't the best. But part of the real fun is uh, not getting the answer, but getting the answer in an elegant, clean way, right? So there's a lot of information on the About page. Let's go back to the main page because we're getting close. 7 minutes left. His shop is open, by the way. You can get Advent of Code 2024 shirts, and it's given people kind of an inkling that maybe there's going to be a gift box this year in the problem set. There's always, the problem set tends to be, it's always around Christmas. Oh, you're not seeing it. Oh, it's always around Christmas. You know, first one I did, I think Santa's elves lost the keys to the sleigh in the ocean, and you had to dive down. I think that was 2021. Oh, Patrick, you could absolutely do it in AppleSoft Basic. The key is writing efficient algorithms. It's good to see you, Patrick. Patrick is it's our Patrick. He's our engineer, our web engineer. He is a very proficient coder in many languages. I think PHP and Python are most commonly. He does not use Common Lisp. In fact, no one I know uses Common Lisp. So, which is too bad because I would love to ask people. But fortunately, I have my AI to help me, my little buddy, my AI buddy. What else do you need to know? I will switch back and forth. Thank you, Sean. I will switch back and forth between the problem set, which you're looking at right now, the Advent of Code page, and my Emacs screen, at least initially, because I need to get the problem absorbed. We're going to read it together and see if we can figure out. And then I have to download the input file, which I do download to. I post my answers on GitHub, but Eric has asked that people not post their input files so that somebody can't reverse engineer it. So I post just the solutions on GitHub. If you go to github.com/Leo Laporte, you can see past solutions. Yeah, I mean, you went to college a long time ago, Patrick, when they still taught Lisp. Actually, my favorite programming book, at least for beginners, I have two actually that I will recommend, but my favorite one for beginners is here somewhere. My favorite one for beginners is this, and I would this actually uses Racket. Oops, camera lost me. Hey, camera, I'm over here. Follow me now. Thank you. This is called How to Design Programs. And it was originally used, I think, at Rice University. A number of universities use it for some years. And this is in Racket, which is a scheme. This is considered by many. Oh, this isn't it. This is considered by many to be the best programming book ever. And it also uses scheme. It's the structure and interpretation of computer programs, often called the Wizard book. Both of these use Lisp-like languages, and there's a reason. You don't spend a lot of energy learning the syntax of Lisp. It's a very simple syntax, and so you can spend your energy instead understanding algorithms, understanding things, difficult things to understand, like recursion, which I may well use in this first problem. It's not unusual. Yeah, the structure interpretation of computer programs. That's right, Shambo. SICP, it's often called. This is HTDP, How to Design Programs. Definitely a good way to start. I took Gregor Gonzalez's class at the University of British Columbia online with this text, two-parter. This one was taught at MIT for years, SICP. No longer, I think, taught, but there are many, many good examples of lectures online for both on YouTube. Yeah, you use SICP. That's neat. Well, you're a much better programmer than I am. So I hope you will be watching the good coders and giving me tips. I will be watching the chat as I go, and maybe you have some insight as we go. Again, Friday we're going to get together with some of the better programmers in the club and do a postmortem, and they're going to show us how they go about solving these kinds of problems. It should be a lot of fun. Keith 512, I am seeing the Discord, but it's not, I haven't figured out. Only Anthony Nielsen knows how to get the Discord chat in this chat. Oh, you're not, are you seeing it on the screen? Yeah, you're seeing it on the screen. So you could see where the chats are coming from. There's the Twitch logo. You'll see some YouTube logos, x.com, so forth. All right, we're 1.5 minutes out. Everybody get serious, okay? You could write it in awk. The awk's a Turing complete language. I like to write, you'll see, I like to write code that's legible. I'm kind of a fan of what's sometimes called literate programming, where you can intersperse prose with your code so that you can understand it. Emacs is not exactly a good literate programming tool, so I have to do it in comments, but you'll see. All right, here we go. This is exciting. I'm going to switch away from the interface, so I won't see your chat for a little bit because I'm actually going to start looking at this page, and we're going to try to figure out what Eric Wastel is up to in the 2024 advent of code as it begins 30 seconds to midnight Eastern. That's part of the fun of this, as everybody, I think several thousand coders do this, maybe more, is all at the same time getting the problem at the same time. It's pretty exciting. 10 seconds now. Count down with me. Ready? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Get ready. Get your brains on. 2, 1, 0. Here we go. Problem number 1. It starts historian hysteria. The chief historian is always present for the. Now, the fast coders are skipping all of this prose and going right to this. But I'm gonna read it because he put some effort into it. Is always present for the big Christmas sleigh launch. Nobody's seen him in months. Last anyone heard, he was visiting locations that are historically significant to the North Pole. A group of senior historians has asked you to accompany them as they check the places they think he's most likely to visit. As each location is checked, they'll mark it on their list with a star. That means you've solved the problem, right? They figure the chief historian must be in one of the first 50 places they'll look. So in order to save Christmas, which is always the goal here, you need to help them get 50 stars before Santa takes off on Christmas Day. All right, let's look at the puzzle. You haven't even left yet, and the group of elvish senior historians has already hit a problem. Their list of locations is currently empty. Eventually, someone decides the best place to check first would be the chief historian's office. By the way, right now, if I go to the leaderboard, there will be, well, let's do it. Let's just see. There will already be people who've solved it. Look at that. These people have all solved it already. Can you believe that? We're not quite at 100, but 59 people have already solved it. You get the most points for being the first to solve it. So these are people, competitive coders, I should point out, who do this in a unique way. All right. So let's see. We're going to try to understand what all this text means. The elves discover an assortment of notes and lists of locations. This seems to be planning the historian was doing before he left. Maybe these notes could be used to determine which locations to search. Okay. So throughout the chief's office, the historically significant locations are listed not by name, by a unique number called location ID. To make sure they don't miss anything, the historians split into 2 groups, each searching the office, trying to create their own complete list of location IDs. Oh, great. Now we're going to have 2 lists, putting them side by side. Your puzzle input, the lists aren't very similar. Can you reconcile them? Now, here's the example. Remember, I said there'd be an example. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to put that right now. I'm going to put that into my Emacs. So this is going to slow me down a little bit, but you're going to see kind of how I work. in a very slow way. So I'm going to scroll down here, say part 1, and I put this in quotes because this is the problem set. Oops, oh, not that. This is the example. Let me do that. Here, actually, let's get out of that and put it here. And what I usually do, so let me just go back to the Advent of Code page. And what the pros do immediately, before anything else, they go down here and they get the puzzle input. And now you can see we're going to have multiple lines, maybe 150 lines, and each line is going to contain 2 numbers. Okay, so that's a good starting point. You're not seeing that, are you? Let me show you that. Probably shouldn't show you that because it's top secret, but I'm going to quickly show you that. So this is my input. Just 150 long numbers, all in the 10,000s. Okay, good. So that's a kind of a clue, that input page, to what the job's going to be. Let's go back and read the instructions again. All right. So that was the example, which I pasted into Emacs. Maybe the lists are only off by a small amount. Pair up the numbers and see, how far apart they are. Pair up the smallest number in the left list with the smallest number in the right list. Second smallest, second, and so on. Within each pair, figure out how far apart the 2 numbers are. You'll need to add up all those distances. Okay. In the smallest number in the left list is 1. The smallest number in the right list is 3. The distance is 2. So that's the first number. And then 1, and then 0, and then 2. Okay, you get the idea? So we now know that the answer to the example is 11. So let me switch back to my Emacs and show you what I do. Usually I do it faster than this. But I have to do a lot of clicking to get Restream to show you what I want. So this is the first thing. So I'm going to define a global. I do this functionally, but I am going to define a global parameter. If I can spell, and I'm going to call it example. I put it in, they call that earmuffs, so that I know that that is a global parameter. I also know that this is going to be a list, and the list is going to contain lines, and each line is actually going to be a line of text. I'm going to have to parse it into digits with 2 digits in it, right? That's not a big deal. Almost always these problems begin with, how do you parse the data? I'm going to get rid of those spaces. How do you parse the data? How do you make the data something that you can work with? So I've now defined example. In fact, if I, whoops, let's abort out of that because I spelled parameter wrong. There we go. All right, now if I compile this, and you see this is where the, over on the right, this is where the REPL is handy, because now I can type example and it will actually give me the example. And if I click on it, I'll see it's a list of 5 strings, which is exactly what I expect. Okay, so I have an example. I also know what the answer is supposed to be. So let's define the test. 5A is my testing harness, as they say. And day underscore 01-1-test is, again, 5A. That's I defined that up here, by the way, as 5A is short for 5 a.m., my testing framework. And so I say 5A is, that's the test, equal, what was the number again from the Advent of Code? 11. Okay, so 11, I should get 11 when I run this day underscore 01-1 on the example. So now I'm writing a test. I always write the tests first because I'll know if I write the test and it fails, I'll know I've failed. And then when it passes, then I know I'm on my way to solving the problem. Sometimes the test passes and it doesn't work with the input, and then you have to figure out what you did wrong. I will have a function, which, as you can see, will be day 01-1, that function will take a list of strings. So I'm going to call it LOS. And it will return some number, which for now is just going to be 0. And if I go up here, let me clear this so you don't have to see all the junk. If I go up here and run my test, you'll see it's failed, right? Because 0 does not equal 11. Well, of course not, because we haven't actually solved this yet. Well, already reading this, I have a pretty good idea of what I'm going to need to do. I'm going to have to parse this string. Let me make sure that you're seeing the right thing here. Let me see here. Are you seeing the right thing? You know what's funny? If I do this, I have to cancel, stop screen sharing, and then start it over again, just to make sure that you are seeing it. Yeah, you're seeing it. Okay. So you see the test failed. All right, now here's what we're going to do here. I am going to figure out how to parse this. What I'm going to do, obviously, in order to make this work, is I need to load these digits in. The first digit, make a list. Second digit, make a list. I need to sort that list from lowest to highest. And then I need to go through the lists one by one and compare each item in the list, subtract the second from the first, and then get all of the differences. And that's going to be 11 in this example. If I get 11, then I know I can do the test. This is actually pretty simple. So first thing I'm going to do is I need to write a function to turn it into two lists. So I usually call this parse data. And the data is going to be the example data, which I've read in, the list of strings which I've read in. I could put this in the body of day01, but I like to write these smaller functions so they're testable and so the logic of them is clear. I don't like to write big, long functions. I like to make really simple functions. So what am I going to get? I am going to get, just as I did here with this, a list of strings. Okay, I'm calling that LOS. That list of strings is going to be basically two digits. So what the first thing I have to do is go through the list of strings and turn this into, let me think about this. What I want is the number, and I'm going to be able to split that. I really want to return two lists. So I think what I'm going to do is takes a list of strings, each with two numbers, and returns. With Lisp, you can return two values. It's a little bit of a contortion to read the two values. I have to do a destructured bind, take the two values and split them off. So it might be easier just to return a single value, which would be a list of two lists, maybe. So that is my description of what this function does. Not very good. I'll probably refine that a little bit later on. So first thing I probably want to do is I'm going to be doing a regular expression split on the string. I'm going to split it on space. So that is the function that I'm going to do. I won't call it str. To split that into two strings. So I'm going to do this, go through the list. So first we're going to do list on in LOS. So what this is this is a iterator that's going to go through the list LOS, and it's going to go one by one through that list, and each time return something called digits. That will be in the first time through the string 3 space 4. By the way, I should make sure it really is 1 space. That actually is relevant because I can do this as a regular expression, but if it is one, let me download. Let me go back to the AOC. I have to download it anyway. So I'm going to replace this with AOC. I am going to download my puzzle input, and I'm going to put it in the directory for this, day 1, as input.txt. So there it is. That's input.txt. And you can see I've already, in the template, set up a constant variable that refers to this exact location. So what I can actually do right now in the REPL is UIOP read file lines, and I can use the variable I've already defined, the constant I've already defined, data file. Oops, did I do something wrong? There is no such file. Let me look real quickly to see if it actually went where it's supposed to go. Does day 1 have input.txt? It does. What did I do wrong here? Did I not compile this? Let's try it again. Read file lines, data. Oh, it's data. Yeah. Huh. All right. Usually it's typos and things like that that get me. Def parameter, data file. Let's see if I have data file. I do. CLAOC2. I must have done something wrong in the naming. Day_1. Is that correct? Let's copy the path. See what the path name is. Volumes data source. AOC 2024 day_01 input.txt. Huh. Well, this is an unexpected showstopper. It's there, isn't it? Yeah, it's there. By the way, that looks like 2. Let me just look at it. It looks like 2 spaces, doesn't it? Oh, it's more than that. It's 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. Well, okay. Now this is one where you could be. I could just put 3 literal spaces in. Let's not save that. But it would be better to put a regular expression in, which means I'm going to have to remember the syntax for regular expressions. Let me do that. This is a good chance to show you how we use our little AI friend. Oh, I'm sorry. You weren't even seeing my Emacs. I forgot to change the screen. Let's go to our little AI friend. And let's ask our little AI friend, what is the regex for multiple spaces? Now, this is going to be in Lisp. No, it's not doing that. I want in Lisp. I know that. I need it. All right, let me go back to Emacs, and I can just, this is where the REPL comes in handy. Okay, REPL comes in handy because what I want, well, I guess I could do, how do you express a regex? Is it just /space? Let's try it. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to do this, yank it over here, make the string I don't think it did it. I think it just gave me the whole string. Oh, that means, let's check here real quick. I mean, I could, if I were trying to do this in a hurry, I would just do this. And then that would be the correct, well, See, it would still give me that, which I don't like. Oh no, that's right. So I could just do 3 spaces. Let's do that. I'm going to be lazy. And that means here has to have 3 spaces. I bet you he did that on the AOC page. Let's just check real quick. See if there's 3 spaces in the examples. Yes, there are. It's bad to assume something like that. It'd be much better, obviously, to write the regex properly. And I will when I go back to finish this. All right, so what I'm going to do is take digits, split it into 2. So that will give me a list of 2 number strings. Okay. What I'm going to do, I need to make, okay, I also need to do a let here, which creates a local variable. And I'm going to say number lists. And this is the empty list. So I'm going to do the number list. That's an empty list. And I am going to, every time I get this, I'm going to let nums be this list of 2 digits. And I'm going to say, I want to have another list here and here. Let's see, that's going to be global or locally global. First call, also empty. Empty. Okay, those are my local variables. They are still applicable inside of this iteration, this do list. So I'm now going to say, I'm going to go through each line, calling that digits. I'm going to split that line on 3 spaces. Tacky, I know. And return that as a list of 2 number strings. Okay. So that's what I'm getting out of that. Now, what I'm going to do is take the first one, push, parse integer, which turns a string into an integer. First nums, which is the first item in that list. And I'm going to push that to, first call. And I'm going to push parse integer. Again, parse integer takes a number string. I'll show you in a second. Second nums. And put that into the, where do you think? Second call, right? All right. This let ends here. Good, so those come underneath. This will re-indent. All right, so, and then I am going to return, and the last function evaluated is what this function will return. So the last evaluation is what this function will return. Last evaluation will be a list of these 2 lists. So const, which is putting lists together, first call, second call. So this is going to return, as I had promised in my comment, this is going to return a list, containing the first column and the second column. All right, so this is roughly the logic, but let's make sure that we know what we're doing here. So we tried split on 3 spaces on 1 and 3. Let's let's do this. RE split. Did I recompile this? Let's recompile that. Make sure that's correct. Okay. Space, 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 right? On first example. So that's the first string in the example. And that is 3 and 4. That's what we expected. Now, so that's the split here, right? Now, what we want to do is let's get that back, and I am going to parse integer on the first result of that. Now, if that's correct, this should be, I should just get a 3, right? Let's see. Oops, what's the 1? Oh, that's the length. I'm going to ignore. So as mentioned, some list functions do return multiple values. The first value is always, you can ignore the subsequent values unless you explicitly deconstruct the result. So the answer is 4. In fact, if I put this with second, right, second result, that should be 4, right? 3, 4. So this is the code in here, which is I'm going through the list of strings, which in the example case is these strings. I'm first splitting them. So I'm going to say I'm going to let nums be a list of those 2 digits. The first one is 3, the second one is 4. I'm then going to parse the first one. Okay, parentheses are wrong. And that's why you go through this. So I'm then going to parse that integer and push the resulting digit onto the list. These are empty lists, but by the end, they'll be populated lists. Yes, yes. And then the final result is to push that out. Okay, I think that's correct. Compiled and loaded, but there is a style warning, which means I did something wrong. Variable LOS is defined but never used. Oh, because do list digits in LOS. Is that not getting to it? That's usually a sign that I've somehow used the parenthesis in a way that is not actually getting through everywhere. So I'm going to say let number list. I turned off. I usually use a handy little utility in Emacs that will automatically do the parenthesizing and stuff, but it gets in the way of showing you what I'm doing because I can't do stuff that I like to do. So I turned that off. Normally I would have more help on this. Okay, so this is the let. I have 3 lists that I'm letting. What happened? 3 lists that I'm letting, creating. These are local variables, number lists, first call, second. Those are all lists. So it says do list with digits in LOS. Okay. Split the digits into a list of 2, and that's going to be called nums. Then push parse integer first nums on the first call, second call. That looks good to me. Oh, anybody see it in the chat? This is actually easy. It's not complicated, Joshua. It's not complicated. It's actually easy. But since there's some syntax error in here that I'm missing right now, sometimes this happens to me. Yeah, that looks wrong. There we go. Okay, the style warning is the variable. Oh, and that's just a typo. Num list. Number lists. Oh, I don't need that, do I? No. Okay, good. So let's see now. I think this will compile. So I had a missing parenthesis or a misaligned parenthesis. You can see that the Emacs does highlight the parenthesis. So this parenthesis goes with this one goes with this one goes with that one. You can see they're highlighted. I hope you can see they're highlighted. So Emacs does help me figure out where my parentheses are going. So this do list is pushing these numbers on the first column, and then I'm releasing. Okay, this should work. Yeah, okay, that compiled and loaded. You see at the bottom, no warnings. So now here's the test, is just to see if that works. Parse data. Oops. That's a pretty generic name. I'd probably change that. Example. Now I should get, the result back should be 2 lists of the numbers, and it is. Oh, wait a minute. No, it isn't. It sort of is. So that should be 342133. It's backwards, but I'm going to sort it, so that doesn't matter. 342133, and this is correct, but this for some reason is not coming back as a list. So I'm doing something minor wrong here. Cons, first call, second call. Maybe I don't do a cons. Maybe that's the problem. I could solve this by just returning the 2 lists and then, yeah, you know what? Let's show you some real Lisp. So what we use is the values command. And what I'm doing with values is returning 2 values, the first column and the second column. Now let's see what happens. This should work. Oops. Yeah, that's what I wanted. I've got the 2 columns now parsed out as I expected. And they're backwards because it's pushing, right? So it just doesn't matter. I'm going to sort it. So that is going backwards 3, 4, 2, 1, 3, 3, correct? And 4, 3, 5, 3, 9, 3. Now, if I really wanted to test this, if I wanted to make it kind of more robust, I might write a test for parse data. But I can see, on cursory examination, it does what I expect it to do. So we're going to leave it at that. Now, that means this is a little more complicated to write the result because this is going to be the final thing. I'm going to get the data. Now I have to I have to remember this too. Structure bind. What is it? I'm going to have to go to my Genius because I don't remember the syntax, but that's good. I can show you how the Genius works. What is the syntax for returning multiple values from a function? And it's going to show me the first part, which is values, but I want to know how to then use those. It's something structure bind, values function, right? Oh, here it is, multiple value bind. Okay. All right, so we're going to go back to Emacs. I hope you're seeing it. Tell me if you're not seeing it. I don't see, for some reason, I'm not seeing what you're seeing. Okay, now I'm back in Emacs. So what was it? I forgot already. Multiple value bind. All right, so I'm going to do not structure bind, multiple value bind. Okay, and that is going to have 2 values. First call. I can name them anything I want. Let's do it. Call 1, call 2. Then I don't get it confused with the previous locals. Those are locals, so they could be the same name in this one too. This is locals. So I'm now saying bind the result of parse data, LOS, which is parse the data. We're going back calling this function, right? With LOS, which is what is also provided this function. Parse that data and return 2 values, the first column and the second column. Does that make sense? All right. So I now have 2 local values. This is kind of like a let. I have 2 local values, call 1 and call 2. The very next thing I want to do is sort them. And you can actually sort them in this multiple value bind call, but it's ugly and I don't remember exactly how to do it. So maybe I should, though. I think I can just say sort. Notice at the bottom here, it tells me what the, oops. Let's go back to sort. It tells me, I can't really select it, but at the very bottom of the screen, you can see it shows me the form for sort. So I know the sequence. I'm going to do this inside a parenthesis. So I know the sequence. There's the sequence. The predicate, which is less than, right? I want the least to do it. And the key. Now I'm at, or should that be the key? Let's see. Let me try it this way. So we got this. I'm going to sort first, parse data. That's going to be the first thing. And then do less than. Is that going to work? No. Value 3 is not type of sequence. Value 3. Oh, I don't need first because I'm returning 2 values. I'm not doing it that way, am I? I'm not doing a list. So if I do parse data example, that should give me this first list. Sort it. Yeah. Sort parse data example 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4. Okay, that's right. So that's all I need to do. I think that will work in the multiple value bind. Let's see. And then same thing here. Sort call to. By the way, by now 100 people have already solved this. Okay, and that's the multiple value bind. I think that'll work. I'll show you one more really obscure Linux Lisp command, which is the format command. That's the same as a print command. If you've coded before, you know you often debug with print commands. Well, format, which is a very elaborate command in Lisp, is effectively our print command. But I have to write a string. Let's write a string that describes what's going to come out. So call 1, and that's going to be this variable, and then call 2 is going to be this variable, which looks like the same variable, doesn't it? It does. And then call 1, call 2. Okay, that is the format command, just to see if this does what I think it does. Multiple value bind sort call 1, parse data LOS format T. Oh, let's put a carriage return in here, which, ready for this? That is a carriage return. Okay, so let's compile that. Oops. Value. Yeah, I know that. I knew that. So it didn't like this. It didn't like me doing that. Oh, can I do? No, I can't. Yeah, you could do parse integer, but I think sort's too complicated. So we're just going to do this. We'll do it later. It's just too complicated. You could do parse integer, which I've done a lot, but you can't do that. Okay, take out that parent. All right, now I could actually still use this and see if it's doing what I think it's doing, which is this. Let's see. What I got was up here. Oh, because they're not sorted, but I did get the columns. Okay, good, cool. Now what I want to do is do some sorting. All right. So I'm going to do a little zipper, aren't I? That's the next part of this. I get these sorted into numeric order. Okay, baby, I love you. I knew I would put you to sleep.
No, I'm just tired. I got up early and the cat was crying at 3. I'm still listening.
Okay, she says she's still listening. I doubt anybody's still listening, but all right. So I'm going to eventually have to sort these columns. And then I'm going to have to do some sort of zipper where I subtract column 2 from column 1 and save the number, right? So I think I can do a let here. Let let's just a really useful way to do local variables. So I'm going to do let, I don't know, what's a good name for this? Well, sorted column 1 equals sort column 1. That's the best name for it. It's a lot of typing. But as you can see, Emacs will provide what it knows anyway. And then we can do this. Okay, so I'm going to let some local variables exist. That's sorted column 1, now sorted column 2. Now, inside of this, I now need to do the zipper. So this is another do list. Actually, it's a double do list, isn't it? I have to take one from column A and one from column B. Okay, this is kind of interesting. Let me think how I would do this. So you see, I've done, this is generally how I always work, which is you get the example, you get put the data in a form that you can use. And I'm getting that in a form I could use, which is basically a list of two lists of digits in sequence. You have to sort them so that the lowest one is first, which we did. And now I have to take easiest way to do this would recursively do it. But I can't do a recursive day 01-1 because of this multiple value bind. I only want to do that once. You know what? I'll put the sort up here, don't I? That's what I do. That's what I do. You probably saw that, didn't you? And you thought, what is he doing it down there? Why not return the sorted dummy? So now we've got the sort, and I'm returning the sorted values. So all of this was a waste of time. But the easiest way to do this would be a recursive where you're given two lists and you just peel off the first number of each until there's nothing left of either list. This is why I didn't want to return two values, because it makes it a little harder. You have to then bind the two values. All right, well, I'm going to have to do it iteratively, even though it would be more natural to do it recursively. So the iterative way to do this would be for x, y on, no, that's not going to work. Inside. For x in call 1 y in call 2. Actually, I don't think I need the iter again because this is all in the one iteration. I want to do this. So y in call 2 summing minus I'm subtracting the second value from the first, right? No. Let's go back to AOC and reread that. You want the absolute value of the distance because we don't know. Okay. It's good I checked. So I want the absolute value of in other words, I want the distance between them, which is an absolute value, because we don't know which is bigger, and it doesn't matter. So I am going to sum the absolute value of x, let's see, minus x, Y, right? Will that give me the answer? That might be it. What did I do wrong? Sort first column. You see, I got a warning from the indentation that you've screwed up, buddy. Did I do that? Okay. That's why people freak out about the parentheses in Lisp. And yeah, you look at it and there's a lot of parentheses. But see, I've made them multiple colors. They pair up with what's, with where they go. And the indentation will indicate whether you've got the right thing. So value servers, that's the value return. That's after this, right? Yeah. Okay. I think that's correct. Let's just do it real quick. Parse data example. I should get 2 sorted lists, and I did. Okay. So good. So that's doing the right thing. I'm taking those 2 sorted lists, and now I'm iterating through them for X in column 1 and Y in column 2, summing absolute. I think that's it. Do I get an error? Well, we'll know if it passes. Okay. So that's why you do a test. Because now I see, yeah, that got the right answer. So let's see if we actually have the right answer. Oh, I still have to figure out why I don't have my input file. Well, just out of curiosity. Am I gonna get the same error? I did. So for some reason, I saved the input file in the wrong place. Yeah, because you can with unbalanced parentheses, but you see, I can pretty quickly go back and see, what went wrong. Let me get my input data. What did I do wrong? Save link as. Is it truly 2024? Is it truly 2024? AOC day 01 input text. Is it? Save it. Yes. And then let's look at it. Shouldn't it be? I already did this, right? Yeah, see? It looks right. So what's wrong, man? Why can't you read it? Something dopey, as it usually is. This is why I don't like to race to finish it, because it just makes you nuts. So for some reason, I can't read those lines. Some reason I can't read those lines. Let's try it again. UIOP, read file lines. UIOP is a set of, it's a library of IO and other useful tools. If I were a purist, I would write it all, open this. It's much easier just to do this. Well, first, let's see if I can open the data file. I can't. No such file or directory. So it's just an error up here in my template. Let's see. It should be this. Oh, you know what? I think it's Common Lisp, isn't it? Let me see. I think the alias is Common Lisp. It is. Okay, that's why. So this isn't CL, it's Common Lisp. I use CL everywhere except this one machine. Stupid me. Stupid me. See, it's usually something like that. Now, if I go back, I should be able to read the file. No, let's do this. Yes, I read the file. All right, so this should now give me the answer. Let's see. CC. It says the answer is 1223326. You want to try it? How confident do we feel? Could we possibly have the answer? Let's go to the Advent of Code page and enter 1223326. 1223326. Submit. That's the right answer. So I have a gold star. Woo! How exciting. So how long did it take me? It took me 47 minutes. And if I weren't switching back and forth and explaining it, it would have taken maybe half an hour. And again, let's go back to the leaderboard because it's hysterical. Whoops, turn myself on. It's hysterical to see these guys already. There's more than 100 people solved it already. Yeah. Let's look at the times. How do you? I forgot how you do the times. Let's see. We do it by. No. Where's the leaderboard? There's a way to do the leaderboard by times. I can't remember what it is though. Well, anyway, we can go to our private leaderboard and see if anybody. Oh, look, Sci-Phase has solved it. Placeholders solved it. Whatever solved it. Barbara, I'm the slowest one. I only got 44 points. Okay, but I am in there now. Now the hard part begins. Okay. Now part 2. You ready? Hope you're enjoying this. Watching me be tortured. Let's go back to the advent of code. And I'm going to go back to the calendar. Now you can see I've got a star. But that means now we have part 2. And this is what's interesting. If you want to be obsessive, you could write your code to be so general that it's easy to do part 2. The problem is there's a rule in programming not to prematurely optimize. You don't really know what's going to happen in part 2. You can guess, we're going to have the same input data, but there's going to be a different way to solve this. He screwed up. Let's see. All right. First half of the puzzle. Oh, your analysis only confirmed what everyone feared. The 2 lists are very different. Yeah. Oh, are they? The historians can't agree on which group made the mistakes or how to read most of the chief's handwriting. In the commotion, you notice an interesting detail. A lot of the location IDs appear in both lists. Of course they do. Maybe the other numbers aren't location IDs at all, but rather misinterpreted handwriting. So this time, and I'm going to copy this. So let's copy this. And now I'm going to go over to my Emacs. And I'm going to go and paste this in because I like to know what I'm doing. You know what? I didn't do that in part 1, but I'm going to do it in part 2. So yank. Now, so we're going to figure out how often each number from the left list appears in the right list. Calculate a total similarity score by adding up each number in the left list. Okay, sure. It's not as complicated as it sounds, but it is funny how they make it that way. All right. So again, I'm going to do the same thing. I now know that the answer of doing it that way is 31. So I need to go back and update my test. And then we're gonna have to do some close reading to see if so I'm going to do a test for the second. Let's copy this test and I'm going to put it in part 2 here. What happened to that? There we go. I'm going to put this test, but this is going to be day 1 part 2 test. Oops. And what did I say? 33? So instead of 11, let me go back and check that. I want to get 31. Okay. So instead of 11, I want to get 31. So of course, I can keep the same example data. He hasn't changed that. I can keep the same parsing. Can I? I don't really need to sort it anymore, but I guess I can keep the same parsing. But this is going to change. You'll have to figure out exactly how often each number from the left list, I don't really need to sort it, appears in the right list. Okay, so I'm going to go through the list. I'm going to go through each number, and I'm going to multiply it by the number of times that number appears in the right list. That's easy to do. This is actually very simple. All right, so I am going to do it this way. I don't need to sort it again, but let me copy this here, and I'm going to make this number 2. Okay, so we're still going to get these 2 columns sorted. But what I now need to do is go through column 1. So I'm just going to do this X in column 1. Actually, I could do this. Well, I can. Let's see here. And then, so I'm going to then count. Let count equal the number of times X appears in column 2, right? So I'm sure there's a very simple, one of the reasons they call it Lisp is because it's short for list processing. And that's why you tend to work in lists. Lists are slow, but these lists aren't too long and it's going to be pretty easy. So there's going to be a way to count the occurrences of a number in a list. Let's go to the AI and just ask it, because I'm sure I can think of it, but let's just do that, because why not? All right, Mr. AI, how do I count the occurrences of a number in a list? AI man does not mind if I misspell stuff. There's a number of any item in a list. You can use the count function. Well, that's not hard. Count item sequence, and then there's a test. Okay, so let's go back to Emacs. I thought it was easy. I should have known it. This is what comes of not coding every day. Russell Schwartz, the Perl guru, told me you got to code at least 2 or 3 hours every day in your language, or you will forget it. So count, and you see at the bottom now it says count item. So I'm going to count the item, which is X, and I'm going to count it in call 2. That's the sequence. The key is from end, start, end key, test. That's the key one. Test, let's see, test. And that test is not going to be, the default test is EQL, which actually doesn't work for numbers. I'll show you. Let's try EQL 1 and 1. Are 1 and 1 equal? Oh, they are. So I can use equal. Okay. You want to use the most basic test that works. Okay. Well, let's try this here real quickly. Well, let's count equal count of X in column 2, right? That's how many times it appears in column 2. Okay. Nope. Yeah, that's the end of the let. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is sum. Of course, this calculation is no longer what I'm going to sum. I'm going to sum the result of, what is it? Adding up each number on the left after multiplying by the number of times. So it's times X times count, right? One more paren. Does that make sense? So I already have the parse stuff done. I don't have to do that again. It's going to give me 2 sorted columns. I don't care if they're sorted. Now I'm going to go through all the numbers. Let's not do that. Let's do, I'll use X. For X in column 1, I'm going to let count equal the number of times X's appears in column 2, right? Oh, that doesn't work. Let's do this. Yeah, we don't want to confuse the variable with the keyword. So count is going to count X in column 2. Now I'm going to sum up as I go through each iteration X times the count. I think that'll work. Uh-oh, got an error. Column 1 is defined but never used. I could have sworn it was used. Usually that means a parenthesis error, right? Iter for X in column 1. I could also use do list, or there are a lot of different ways to do this, but the nice thing about iteration is it has this keyword called summing, which means just sum up the results. For X in column 1, am I supposed to put this in parentheses? Again with the syntax bewilderment. And this is where my memory should be better, but it isn't. If I did this more often, maybe it would be. But let me just do this here. How do I step through items in a list using the iter library? For item in list, do something with item. I thought so. For item in list, I thought that is right. Is it the keyword collision that's doing it to me? Yeah, I don't usually copy and paste the output of the AI into this. I don't like to do that. What did I do wrong? It's in parentheses, right? Is that correct? Yeah, iterate for item in list for X in column 1, multiple volume bind, column 1, column 2, or column 1. Let count. Oh, there you go. Thank you. Let count summing X times. Yeah, maybe that's no. Break on signals, iterate and count X missing value for column 2 keyword. By the way, this is one of the things I love about Lisp is this debugger. So we dropped in the debugger, and I can actually often modify the program as it's running in the debugger, which is great. So the variable, why is it? What is it? What is it like? It's not seeing column 1 and column 2 for some reason. Multiple value bind. That's correct. So inside of this, I've bound these two locals, column 1 and column 2. Now I'm going to go for X in column 1. Call 2, I don't step through anymore. I'm literally just counting the number of occurrences of X in column 2. Well, you know what? Let's do this. C1, C2, parse data. An example, I'm going to actually do this in the REPL just to see what I get. Now I'm going to say C1. I guess I could just see C1, C2. Oh. Is parse data not giving me? Oh, maybe that's just okay. Multiple value bind C1, C2. Am I not seeing those? It's just a print statement for C1, C2. I just want to see if I'm getting them. Yeah, I am. Okay. So I'm getting C1 and C2. So I should be able to, for X in C1, sum these for X in C1, summing count X times C2. It still doesn't like that. Oh, I forgot iter. C was defined by the same issue, right? Same issue. Now I'm actually in this, so I could go through here with a backtrace. This is all the calls. And I could actually do something with it, but this is too simple for me to do that. Multiple value bind, parse data, iter for X and C1. It's the same error, isn't it? Yeah, I don't really need that let. Let's take the let out. I don't know what's going on. Multiple value bind, call 1, call 2, parse data. Okay, that's correct. Iter for X and call 1. I'm going to step through all of these, and I'm going to multiply X times the number of X's in call 2, right? And I'm going to sum those results up, and that's going to return the answer for me. No, it still doesn't like that. Yeah, it's something about it's not seeing. It's some stupid typo. Would be streamed on the Discord channel if I could figure out how to do that on the Discord channel. But since I'm streaming it everywhere else, I'm not. Anthony Nielsen knows how to do it. I think it involves running another computer, and I don't want to set up a second computer with a Discord and then go on the stage there. It's just too complicated for me. Okay, def on day 1. Okay, multiple value bind. Okay, the parse is correct. We know because I did it up here. It's the same thing. We know the parse data is correct, and it's going to give us 2 sorted columns. I don't need them sorted in this case, but that's fine. I'm going to have column 1. You know what? I'm just going to do it the old-fashioned way. How about that? For X in column 1, do list. Oh, but I need a let result equals 0. Okay. Now set f, because this is basically a functional language. I can't refer to this. I have to set f. I have to force result to be continuous. It's hard to explain because I'm tired. Set f result to X times count X and call 2. That should do the same thing. Oh, yes, I am assigning it, but I'm never reading it because I now want to return res. Undefined variable res. Let res 0. Why is it not getting to this? Why? What's going on here? Oh, that's why. Okay. Now it works. Now let's see if the test works. As always, oh, nope. Result was 4 instead of 31. Okay. So somewhere in this, I'm doing something wrong. Now, the easiest thing to do is a print statement. True Lisp wizards would not do a print statement. They would actually set a breakpoint and examine results, but that's too much trouble. So I'm going to do X is, I want the value of X, right? Let's do a carriage return here. True Lisp wizard would do this in the REPL. X, okay. And I want to see count, right? For X in column 2. And first I give it X, and then I give count X call 2. Okay, so I'm just adding a print statement in here. So let's just do this again and see what is going wrong. So 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 3, 4. So how many times does 1 appear over here? 0. So that's 0. 2 appears over here, 0. 3 appears over here, 1, 2, 3. So that's 9, right? Oh, I should add one more thing, which is res, just to see if I'm doing it right. I'm very close now. This is very close. %A, and then I want the current value of the result, which means res. Compile that, run it again. Now I have, which is the answer I got, isn't it? All right, I might have misread, very possibly misread what the assignment was, because that looks right. Okay, first number list is 3, appears in the right list, 9, right? Second number in the list is 4. It occurs right list once, so that's 4. Ah, it didn't add it, okay. Third number did not appear, that's 0. Fourth number does not appear, that's 0. Fifth number, so she get another, I'm not adding them, that's why. So it's just not adding them. All right. That's right. I see why. So f res 2 plus res and that. That's why. All right. Whoops. Let's compile that. Let's run the example. This should come out right. It did. So I'm going to take this debugging out. And as I thought, it was just some sort of typo. And now I'm going to take the comments off of this and run this. And it says I should get 210700419. Well, let's see. Let's actually see. Let's see. No, it's Emacs, my friend, Paka. Emacs. And let me go to the advent of code window and type in this result, which is 2107004. 210700419. All right, drum roll, please. Submit. Yep. So we're done. We completed day 1. I can go to the calendar. I have to wait 22 hours for more. It took me much longer than it should have, an hour and 10 minutes to do the whole thing, but I was showing you how I did it. Let's go to our private leaderboard and see who else has done. Hey, oh, do I have to refresh it? Huh, I should have. Oh, I see. It doesn't show. Yeah. So now I'm catching up a little bit. I'm still in 6th place. And TY2K got in there. All right. Oh, how's that? Took me an hour and 10, which is a long time, especially since there are people who solved it in 5 seconds. But I think, if you look at how we did this, I think it's pretty nice and clean. There's only one thing I don't like about it, which is the hard test for 3 spaces. I should replace that with a regex. And I'm just trying to remember how you use split and regexes in. I can ask my little AI friend. Let's ask my little AI friend. Where is he? No, that's not him. Little AI friend, can you tell me what I did wrong? There it is. ChatGPT. How do I use regexes in with split? See if it knows that split comes from. Yeah, I am using CLPCRE. I need another backspace, another slash. I forgot. You have to escape the slash. Easy peasy. So instead of 3 spaces here, I'm going to do // and plus means 1 or more, right? Not 0 more, but 1 or more. So that should still work. And that's cleaner because if there's not a, let's just see if the test still works. Yep. That's cleaner because if there's not exactly 3 spaces, it'll just say it's split somehow. You could also do it with white space, right? Isn't there a W for white space? But anyway, 1 or more spaces, I'm going to split that. So that was one thing I was uncomfortable with. So I started this at 30 November 2024 at 9p, and I finished it on 30 November 2024 at 10p. Okay, let's save that. Anything else I want to clean up? Oh yeah, I didn't put in, I should always do that. I did not put in the little bit of explanation of what's going on. Pair up the numbers, Chris. So I like to do this in the, a couple of things I like to do. One is put the problem description, not a short version of the problem description in here. And I also like to do this, just so I know what I'm solving here. I also like to put the title in here, Historian Hysteria. I'm cleaning this up before I put it up, post it on GitHub. So this is day 1, Historian Hysteria, part 1. Pair up the numbers and measure how far apart they are. Pair up the smallest number on the left list, smallest number on the right list, and the second smallest, and so on. Oh, and I forgot I have to multiply them or something, right? Oh no. On the total distances, yeah. Okay, I just like to have that in there. So I know it's not, he doesn't want you to put the whole problem set in on GitHub, but I don't put the input and I just put enough of it to kind of understand what I'm doing. Here's the example. I always start with that, right? Very often, the first problem is to figure out what form to put the data in. In this case, I could have done it all in the single function, but I like to separate stuff out of that if I can. As you can see, that worked out well because in the second part, I still needed to parse the data. So what I did is I created 2 local variables, first call and second call, to represent this first column and that second column. And then I did a do list, which is one form of iterators. There are a lot of iterators. I was trying to use the for loop, but I had some sort of problem with that. So I decided to just use, that's in the second part, right? Do list, but do list works here too. So basically it goes through the list of strings, LOS, and each line becomes digits. We're going to split that line on white space, and we're going to return something called nums, which is a list of 2 numbers. And they're strings, 2 number strings. So I parse them, the first one and the second one, and push them onto the columns. And then I return sorted, which I don't have to do twice, but I did, sorted versions of each column. Okay. Then to solve day 1, I call that function, parse data, take the 2 columns that I get back, col 1 and column 2, and then I go through a quick iterator. I don't know why that's indented like that. Well, I guess I could do it that way. It might be clearer. So for x in column 1 and y in column 2, sum and return the absolute value of the difference. So return the sum of the absolute value of each difference, if that makes sense. Part 2, okay, it turns out there's a different calculation. Fortunately, the parsing still works. So I really only had to write a second function here. Takes the same parsed data. And in this case, it's really simple. This is so ugly. I really want my for loop to work. This should really be iter for x in call 1 summing. That's why this is more elegant. I don't have to create a dummy variable to fill. X times the count of x in call 2. That seems so much cleaner. And again, the result of the function is the last calculation performed. In this case, this iter, which returns a number. And now this goes to the multiple value bind, that goes to the def fun. Still doesn't like that. What did I do wrong? Maybe summing is wrong or something. I know summing is right. Maybe I don't have a paren here. No, that's the loop construct. Let me look once again on the ask my intelligent little machine buddy. Oh, it's still showing ChatGPT. Sorry. Thank you. Sorry, guys. I know it's always an issue. So let's see what you're showing. You're seeing right now ChatGPT, because I do want to do this. Okay. How do I use summing with iter for loops? Iterate for, oh, I should just say sum? Oh, okay. Maybe I was just being too fancy. Go back to Emacs. Now you should be seeing Emacs. Sorry about that. So just say sum. Really? Doesn't seem right. Yeah, it's still wrong. It doesn't like, whoops. Oops. Screwed up my windows. Back to the REPL. Doesn't like this. Let's clear the REPL. Doesn't like this for some reason. It's so much clearer to me. For x in column 1. Yeah, that does what I expected to do. Count x in column 2. It's kind of what I did here, right? It's exactly what I did there. Why doesn't it work here? Something dumb. I'm determined to make this work because I don't like having that extra local variable, the counter. This should work. This is straightforward. What do you think, guys? It's showing Emacs now, right? Let me stop screen sharing and start it again. For some reason, it doesn't, I can't see what you're seeing initially. All right, now you're seeing Emacs. Okay. And you see what I'm trying to do is clean this one up here in part 2. I mean, I already solved it. This is before I posted. I want to make it look good before I post it. So def on day one, multiple value bind, good. Parse data, LOS, right? Good, good, good. I get call 1 and call 2. Okay. Now I have a simple iteration. Let's put it down here, make it easier. It is summing. Summing. It's the same basic iteration here, right? Iter for X and call 1. I'm not doing this for Y, but I'm doing this. Somewhere there's a dumb typo that I'm missing. You know what? I have the wrong hat. That's the problem. I need to have a sharper hat. That's better. It doesn't hurt my head as much. Isn't that better? I think that's better. All right, now. I've lost my mouse. There it is. Well, I can't break it up any more than I have. It's a pretty simple line. So multiple value bind. This, you have to be within this. This is like a let. This is a local. I'm creating 2 local variables with multiple value bind. So this is the multiple value bind from here to here. And what it does is it binds column 1 and column 2 to the parsed data. I did the same thing up here, right? Multiple value column to parsed data. So now I have 2 local variables inside call 1 and call 2. Now I'm saying for X in call 1, just like I did here, sum up the values of X. So it's going to iterate through each number in column 1 for X in call 1. It's the same thing I did here, right? I'm going to sum up X times the number of times X appears in column 2. X times the number of times X appears in column 2. And I'm going to return the sum of that having gone through all of these. Okay. It's very strange. What doesn't it like? Let me look at this again. Style warming. It's defined but never used. Well, that's usually when I get an error like that, it usually means there's code that's being not run. Both column 1 and column 2 are not seen there. Well, I can go back to the way it was. I mean, I solved it, but it's just such an ugly. I'm using the do list. Iter for X in column 1, summing. Whoops! This whole time I had the wrong. I had the wrong lower third. I've really got to work on my. I've really got to work on this here. This is supposed to be like this. And then I was going to have chat turned on, right? Right, like that. Yeah, it's something dumb I'm missing. Something silly and dumb. Oh, and I also didn't want TV showing up there because, let me turn that off. Oh, wrong one. because it covers up part of the screen, don't you know? All right. Yeah. Yes, obviously. When the computer says you're wrong, you're wrong. It's the same thing here, though. That's what's so strange to me. I know I'm missing something idiotic. For x in column 1, right? Summing x. Oh well, we'll just go back. It's so sad to me because it's such an ugly way to do it with a do list. But I hate making that temporary value. It's the same thing for x in column 1. Set at it's so ugly. Oh, so ugly. I'm embarrassed. But it does give the right result. So now what I do usually is I've got all that done, right? Okay, now I compile the whole thing, save it and compile it, and I get the results here, and more importantly, the times, the amount of time it took to do it, which is always nothing on these first few problems because, I mean, it literally took no time, no real time. So I usually put this in now as later in the month. These will take more time, but literally this took no time. The second one took 0.003 seconds. The first one you couldn't even measure it because it was 0.6 it was 6/10,000th of a second. So no time. So that's my template. That's the solution. I'll save it. And now the next step is to commit it to Git, which I can actually do within Emacs using my Git, but I like to just do it from the command line, which I will do. I won't make you look at that. What was going on? Why didn't it like this iteration? Lisp has built in a thing called loop that is so unlispy and so ugly, and was really a compromise by the Common Lisp Committee, that was just awful, and I just refused to use it. Iter is just like, Python iterations, the for loop and all that. It has some nice features like these consolidation things. Something I'm doing wrong here. It just drives me crazy. Oh, well, I don't want to drive you crazy. So we shall stop. The absolute, no, that one works. This one works. That's not a problem. The absolute is inside. So here's what happens. What we really want on the first part is the difference. But what we don't know is even if the larger number will be on the left or on the right. We only care about the difference. So the difference here is 1, 1, 3, like that. So that's why you do the absolute value after you do the subtraction. So you subtract one from the other, doesn't matter what order. You get the absolute value. That gives you the distance between the two. Then we sum that up, and that gives us the answer. And it did work. If I do my test, you can see here, it passed the test, got the right number there. And in fact, when we did the final puzzle input, it did it right. So that's correct. That's not the one I'm worried about. It's this one down here. What I really want to do one more time. I don't want to make that fake, this local, and do this stuffing it and all that stuff. I just want to do iter for n in call 1 summing the product of n and count n in call 2. That really is how it should be. But for some reason, it doesn't like it, and I don't know why. It's not, it says basically the variable call one is defined but never used, which means we never get into this for some reason. But doesn't it look exactly the same as that? Just confused. I'm just confused here. To me, it's exactly the same as that. There's got to be a typo somewhere or some strange. Let me retype the whole thing. No, but we know this is okay. See, what it doesn't like here is the multiple value bind. It says the variable call to is defined but never used. I'm defining it here, right? But I am using it right here, which means that this code is, it's not getting to this code either. Missing value for call to keyword. I don't know. I don't know. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to figure it out and I'll let you know. Lovely to see you all. I think count is at, you have count inside parens. Yeah, that's how it works. So I'll show you over here, like count, and I'm going to count the number of times. Let's say the number 4 shows up in the list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 4, 4. Should show up twice, right? Yep. Count 4 in list there. And that's the same as this. Count n and call 2. And then I multiply that times n. So multiply the number. I'm going through each number in column 1 for n in column 1. Multiply it times the number of times it appears in column 2. Take out summing. Still doesn't like it. You can all go to bed. I'm just not going to until I solve it. This part, this is doing the same thing, and it works. Some dumb little thing I'm missing here. That absolutely should work. It's driving me crazy. Driving me crazy. Yeah, the parens are confusing, but if you think about it, it's Lisp-Eric. If you think about it, all the parens are saying is this is an expression. And in Lisp, expressions are always inside a function. The first thing in the function is an operation, usually. And then on the subsequent things, actually, that's not always true because it could also just be a list. I mean, I got it working, but it's just crazy. Yeah, it's one of those things where tomorrow I'll go, oh, I'm looking at it, it looks right. I just think this is so ugly to do it this way. So I create a local variable called result or res. And now I go, same thing. I'm going through column 1, number by number. In this case, it's X. And I'm stuffing the value of the current res plus X times count X call 2. It's basically the same thing. Summing is eliminates this local variable. It just sums up in every iteration this value, which is the product of the number we're using in column 1 and the number of times that number appears in column 2. That's all very straightforward. That's going to drive me nuts. It's going to drive me nuts. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So if I did this, actually, let's clear this. Is getting really slow. So iter for x in, here's a list. That's shorthand for list, is that tick. List 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I have one extra parenthesis. Summing x. Right? No. Well, that's supposed to have a parenthesis. Not here, but here. Yeah. See, that works. Okay. For x in that list, summing x. For n in column 1, must be some weird interaction with maybe multiple value bind. Let's do it this way. Okay, so now I have two local variables, call 1. Now for, oops, let's do iter first. Iter for x in call 1. Well, if I did this, yeah, that works. Okay, but I don't want that second. So for x in call 1, summing x times count x in call 2. Same error. What doesn't it like about that? That works. So something about count in there that's giving it a hard time. So you see, I didn't actually, all I did was I multiplied all the numbers in column 1 times the first number in column 2 to get 48. So there's something about count in there it doesn't like. I'm getting some weird interaction here is what I'm getting. This is something unexpected. It almost feels like how about if I did this? What if I just did sum x? No, that also doesn't like that. That's interesting. Something about count. For x in column 1, sum up the number of times x appears in column 2. I feel like that's a bug. All right, I'm actually gonna not try to do it that way and just leave it the way I am, and I'm gonna be puzzled about that. That seems like there's a bug. Like it should be able to see that count. All right, so I am done now. So now I pull up the terminal. And I guess I can show you that. Why not? I think I can show you that. It's not very big. Let's make it really big text so you can see what I'm doing. All right, let's go to the stream. I don't know what it is. They literally, the Lisp I'm using, SBCL, it has releases every month. Oh, I'm not using the latest, but I don't think it's a bug in Lisp. I think there's something weird that I'm not understanding. But anyway, let me push it. That's the next thing to do, is to push it. Push it good. Push it real good. Savage. Where is my terminal? Is that it? There it is. All right. Now I've gone to the terminal. Hello, terminal. And I'm going to cd to Common Lisp AOC 2024. And I'm going to say git add everything, git commit. And now the message is going to be day 1 solved. Okay, git push. And oops. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I had done some updates on another thing. Golly gosh, I have to fix it. I'm going to do a force. Well, let's do a force. All right, now I've done that. Let's go see GitHub, shall we? Make that big too so that you can see that because it's so small. And we'll go to my AOC. Let's see. There it is. Day 1 solved. Isn't that a nice feeling? And there is, I don't push the any of the data. I just push the code. Because Eric has said, please don't push your input data. Keep that to yourself. Looks like I got wrapped wrong on one of these things. Wrap that better, but that's all right. Okay, I'm exhausted. My brain is hurting, but we have solved day 1 of admin of code. And actually, I have to be honest, I'm quite relieved because it wasn't too hard. It wasn't too bad. I was a little worried that it might be too hard and I might embarrass myself. But as it turned out, it wasn't. It was quite nice. Okay, any questions? Everybody's gone by now, right? Thank you, everybody. I might do day 2. I don't know. I think the plan is, I should check, but on the Discord, but I think the plan is for Paul Holder, me, and some other people to kind of talk about how we go about solving this. They're much, much more accomplished programmers than I am, and solve these things much more quickly. I think it's kind of fun to do it in Common Lisp. I really think Common Lisp is a very neat language. And I hope that you can see the value of having that REPL running all the time. The built-in testing, which I find really handy. That a lot of languages will do that. And I think the logic of it is pretty straightforward. There are some weird things like this multiple value bind. Once you get used to it, it's not too awful. And I think the way I go about solving these is pretty acceptable. It's not very fast, but I'm not trying it for speed. I'm trying just to make some clean code that kind of makes sense. Now, what I didn't do is put a lot of comments in. I probably did a bad job of that, to be honest. But I feel like if you choose variable names that are fairly clear, like I should say here, it's just a little too wide. Take out the. So I should probably do all of that. Okay. Yeah. I don't know how you could comment that to make that more clear, right? I don't think I can make it any clearer. It's so simple. It's hard to make it any clearer. This is so ugly, but I can't replace it with anything prettier, unfortunately, because it doesn't work. Anything more logical. I think this is just not as clear. I understand the multiple value bind is a little confusing, and I see this. People go, "Oh, look at all those parentheses," but most of them were kind of automatic. Actually, usually I use a tool which I turned off called Lispy, which actually does them automatically for you. And with that, you don't end up typing closing parens at all. It does all the closing parens. The problem is it's a little finicky, and I think for purposes of exposition, it's better not to have it on. But that's good. I feel pretty good. We did a good job. I'll put some more comments in, I guess. And I'm going to stay up late figuring out what happened. Yeah, William, it was live. The debrief, I think we thought would be Friday. Let me see if it's in our events. Okay, that's done. I think it's Friday, December 6th. And I think we thought maybe 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. So what we were going to do, yeah, we are, Daniel. So what we were going to do is get a few other coders, people who are much better than ours, from our leaderboard. I'll show you our leaderboard, and have them talk about how they do this, the strategies that they use for this and so forth. So here's the leaderboard. We have our own private leaderboard. If you scroll back in the chat, I put that information in. John Arnold created this some time ago. I don't see John's name on here. Oh, a couple more people have come in after me. That's nice. So 10 of us. Darren finally showed up. He usually is right at the top of this list. I'm glad you did it, Sci-Phase. That's good too. And Paul did. So these are all people in the club who solved it. these are people who signed up in the past, and most of them will probably solve this one. This one's pretty easy, but I got in there. And this, if you click it, goes to my GitHub, which has the code from previous years and this year. I got to day 22 last year, and I just ran out of steam. And you can see they get harder and harder. This was day 1 from last year. Same template, basically. Same way of doing things. You know, I'm not trying to do one-liners. I'm not trying to do clever stuff. I'm just, oh, I guess you didn't see that. I'm just basically trying to write some nice code because it's fun. There's our leaderboard. Guess when I click a link, it doesn't, it goes away. For me, this is not, I wouldn't want to do this for work. For me, this is just like doing crossword puzzles. It's like doing Sudoku. It's just having fun. Yeah, Brian, watch. This video isn't going to go away. I'm not going to erase it. So you can watch and see what we did and see how I went through it. And, you know, you can see I'm not the fastest, but you can see the, the logic of it. Also, I'm a little rusty on the language. So it's handy to have those reference, which is the chat GPT I made from Common Lisp, because it has all of the books. You can see the books behind me. If I, let's see, how can I make you see the books? Ah, you're there. It has all the books from my Lisp library. Almost all of them are available on PDFs, and I just put them in the chat GPT. I can show you real quickly. And it's very good at answering most of my questions. Oh, I need to create a tab to do that, so never mind. Yeah, I'm hoping to write code that is pretty self-explanatory. It's the custom in Lisp to put this text after each function to tell you what the function does. It's kind of silly on this because this is not clear as mud, right? Not so. Normally, you put something, and actually, if it's a function that other people are going to use, you would also put in this document string, this doc string. You'd put examples. You'd say what the variables are and so forth. You'd have an interface that other people would use to call it and so forth. But I'm not writing this for anybody else, so mostly I'm just writing the comments for me sometime down the road. But I think it's all pretty self-explanatory. Lisp lets you really have long variable names and long function names. The custom is to separate words with a dash, not intercap, not camel case, or underscore. What do they call that? There's a name for that. Caterpillar or something. You use dashes, and I think that makes it very readable. I'm not always good. I mean, the col 1, col 2 is, I guess you could tell what that is. LOS is a habit I got from How to Design Programs, which is done in Racket. And this book they would very often use LON for list of numbers, LOS for list of strings, and I just got used to that. And so that's, for me, that is explanatory. It's not really great for somebody else reading the code. One other thing I like to do is do it functionally. So even though there is a global here, which is the example, but I always read in the data and then process it. So you can see that the actual code to solve day one reads the file, the data provided data file in, and then processes it. That's where that list of strings comes from. And I pass the results from functions to the next function. I never have a global. I mean, you could write this as a global, a data file as a list of strings, kind of like this, but I don't like to do that. So this is as functional as I can make it. And the reason I do that is I really like to be able to see what each function does. I like to keep to a few lines. I do like to write tests. As this code gets more elaborate, I can show you code from other years, and you can see that I will use a lot more tests as the code gets elaborate. Let's do, I don't know, 5 was a good one. This was day 5 last year. And so this is the example data. And I do a lot more testing to make sure that my code's doing what I want it to do. And you see, I try to make small functions so I can kind of understand what they're doing. I like to have these tests in line. Usually people writing larger projects will have test files in a separate directory and so forth. But the idea here for me is to have a single page that has everything that's required to run this solution, including the libraries I use. That's the testing library, that's the regular expression library, and that's the pattern matching library. And they are each given short nicknames. So you could basically run this from scratch and it would have everything you need to do it. I think I expanded this test data more than was provided because I was having trouble. This one is really hard. So you see, I try to really make short little functions. And then Lisp lends itself well, as all schemes do, to composing or composition, which is to take functions and apply them to other functions. So you build up a list of functions. And if you test as you go, then you can have some confidence at the end. You see, the final thing is chaining these functions around. I do sometimes on the hard ones, these are all my notes. As I go through the process, I document it so I know. This was the most complicated function, I think, this overlap. Anyway, that was last year. This is this year. It's a lot simpler so far. We'll do another day, maybe tomorrow. Thank you, everybody. Ending the stream now. Yeah, it doesn't normally, Christian, that was last year, was really, I think, aberration. Normally, the first week, you can actually look, people do stats and they show how many people drop off. And normally, the first one that's really hard, that's a big drop off. And in this case, everybody stopped at day 5. Yeah, I put the doc strings in there just to help, but it wasn't necessary in this one. Did you find the private leaderboard code? I can post it again for you if you don't have it. If you're in the club, it's just search for a leaderboard in the Club Twit Discord. But I'll tell you what, since you guys are the hardcore, you guys really stuck around, I will paste it into the chat one more time. Oh, that's for everybody codes. me find the. Just looking for the leaderboard code. Sorry. Here we go. Let me put this in chat. Doc Rock tomorrow on This Week in Tech, along with Devendra Hardawar and Jennifer Pattison Tui. It's going to be fun. I look forward to seeing you there. Have a wonderful night, everybody. Leaving the stream for now. Good night.